Hey, what kind of belt do you have?
Canvas. You like? J.C. Penney, 398.
When The Karate Kid starts, the first scene consists of some kids who were actually loitering on the set, annoying the shoot, and director Avildsen stated he would put them in the movie if they would just shut up and let them finish their location shots. So, when given the cue, the kids chased after the car. During the beach scene, Elizabeth Shue faked her knowledge with soccer because she was actually very experienced and played against males often. A nice touch is that when she sees Johnny coming, she kicks the ball away because she knows Daniel just being around her in Johnny's presence will most likely get him in trouble. At school, Daniel would be nicknamed the Karate Kid by Freddy and his pals in a mocking fashion. This not only shows that Freddy and his pals reject Daniel, but that he is completely isolated and alone outside of Allie and his mother, which does create better drama.
Freddy, how you doing?
Hey, Karate Kid!
Now Daniel is actually trying to show off his soccer skills at school in hopes of joining the soccer team because he has experience playing that game. By doing this, he's trying to find a piece of his own, but thanks to Bobby's poor sportsmanship and the subsequent fight, Daniel is removed from the field. Now, a big narrative thread that was dropped in the film focused on details about Daniel's mother. They moved to California so his mother could work at a company called Rocket Computers. In the film, Daniel states the company is up and coming, which is the actual tagline for said company. I'm not kidding, the novel verifies this.
Never heard of it.
It's up and coming.
On her first few days with the company, she would lose her job because the company went bankrupt. This was not divulged in the film. However, an important thing I want to note is that the entire movie was rehearsed before filming, and we are going to explore some of these scenes so you can have more context for the film. With that said, after the soccer incident at school, Daniel is sitting at home watching television on our first rehearsal scene. Lucille LaRusso returns home and explains her job situation, while Daniel is hoping she can give him some time for driving lessons.
Well, it turns out that the Eagle is a turkey.
What do you mean?
They went bankrupt last Friday.
In the film, there was mention that she would never have management benefits, past tense, with the computer company.
And the benefits, I could never get them working in computers.
And then she hurries off, but the film does not state what job she's hurrying off to. To answer this, the book and rehearsals clarify that after the computer company went bankrupt, she was at a restaurant door when this would happen.
What's this job?
At a lobster pot restaurant.
Lobster pot.
You are not going to believe this. I'm walking past this restaurant this afternoon. It's a little bit before lunch hour. This woman comes screaming out of the restaurant. I quit. All right, this guy comes running out, Mr. Williams. He says, you can't quit. You're fired. I'm standing right there, the only applicant. I got the job.
The restaurant in the movie where they are talking is where she now works, and this is verified in the novel. The film also hints this because while she is in the restaurant signaling Daniel to hurry up, she is the one setting the table, not a server. The rehearsal dialogue was moved to this scene as she was on break while her son ate there so they could visit. Due to her losing the computer job, she now works a lot to make ends meet, and this will come up in later footage that never made it into the final film. So in the end, when she parts with Daniel, she is heading back to work at the very restaurant they're eating in. After some more time, Allie approaches Daniel in a lunch line. After that moment, there was a deleted scene where Daniel would join the ladies, but before he sits down, Johnny slips a pie beneath him, and the two fight again.
Probably your only pair of pants, huh? Don't even think of it, worm.
Had this deleted scene stayed in the film along with later deleted scenes, there would be little debate that Johnny is the real bully of this film. So we should start addressing this topic now. If you don't already know, there is a debate that Daniel is the real bully in Karate Kid, what with his sucker punch, taking Allie's attention away from Johnny, and mocking him after a truce is called in front of Allie.
Hey, sorry about the eye there, Johnny. Shoulder okay, Tommy? You guys be careful not to go stepping in front of any more buses now, all right?
And here is what Zabka says about it.
I look at it as if Ralph is the villain. You know, he takes his girlfriend away. Johnny had every right to do what he did to this guy.
To be honest, this is really about what point of view you subscribe to, and anyone can see it any way they choose. If you are Team Johnny or Daniel, it makes no difference, because you define how you watch movies. But it must be noted that The Karate Kid was written based on kids who were bullied and then took up karate to defend themselves, and that is exactly what Daniel does. Johnny already knows karate and doesn't need to learn anything to defend himself. The genesis of this film and the creator's intentions should not be casually discarded for a desired point of view, and so it shouldn't be hard for you to guess what side I'm on. It can be debated that Daniel is sometimes antagonistic and rebellious, and it stems more conflict. But before karate was popular in mainstream culture, it was very dangerous to use flippantly.
When I learned karate, it was not a sport. When I learned karate, it was really deadly serious stuff.
However, I do want to take a moment and note how smart and respectful the wonderful first episodes of Cobra Kai were. What was done with the character of Johnny was perfect. I am overjoyed Zabka returned for the character because he came out stellar and with a lot of depth and unique perspectives. The first Cobra Kai episodes greatly enhance the 1984 film, no matter what side you pick, and I highly advise fans of this film to check it out. So note, it's Halloween here. Remember, Daniel got his butt kicked on the last day of summer, so he has been living this nightmare life for about 2 months now, ducking around school and constantly avoiding Johnny, which is something a confrontational bully would not do. The book stated he learned the class schedules of Johnny and his friends to avoid them and is constantly on his toes. So now Daniel does something stupid and antagonizes the situation again. And this leads to the weakling kid being chased down, and it's about to get dark according to the filmmakers. But before we get there, notice a gaffe where Daniel runs to the fence. You can see a smoke machine pumping out atmosphere for the upcoming scene. During this night fight, Macchio was actually kicked in the face by Zabka due to poor positioning. It was around 4 a.m. when they filmed this, and Zabka was very apologetic, and it would later turn into jokes between the two during conventions when they talked about it. So now we come to a really dark moment in the film. The filmmakers state that at this moment, Johnny is over the edge and shows just how dangerous he is. They make it clear, had Johnny not been stopped by Miyagi, Daniel would have died.
You know what Sensei says, no mercy, and he's going to kill him. He's going to leap up in the air and he's going to throw a flying sidekick into this kid's face and he's going to kill him. And that's what he's going to do. They've beaten him into a pulp already, and he's going to kill him.
No doubt that if Daniel died, the result would have Johnny and his friends in trouble with the law, and most likely Kreese would be disgraced for teaching violence over discipline. But that's a what if rather than a what is. If you notice the wimpy student in the dojo, it's because it's Larry B. Scott, who you must remember from the classic Revenge of the Nerds, where he played Lamar Luttrell. In the rehearsals, he would have even more screen time.
Yes, sir. Coward looks down. I have no cowards in my class. Yes, sir. On your feet. Pain purifies, the mind is master. Say it! Pain purifies, the mind is master. They didn't hear you. Louder! Pain purifies, the mind is master. Louder! Pain purifies, the mind is master. Give me 100 on the board.
The character would also return in the tournament, being one of Daniel's early opponents. So during this meeting, it's established it's the day after Halloween. The tournament will take place on December 19th, 1984, which means that LaRusso has about a month and a half to train, which brings us to the most overlooked detail of this film, and it's the karate itself, which has an identity. Up to this point in the 80s, karate was seen as tough warriors dispatching enemies, or canon ninja films with tough guy heroes and butt kicking. It was an element in a story on the most abstract level, but Pat Johnson wanted to change that. He was given the creativity to depict the karate in this film the way he chose. So, he made the conscious decision to separate those he trained. In the film, the approach of the karate infected the identity of the characters using it. For Macchio and Morita, he trained them calm and peacefully, thus making them more a team that shared their art. With the Cobra Kai teens, he trained them harsh and strict, like they were in basic training, thus making them tense and somewhat aggressive. However, they were unified. He trained Martin Kove in secret and made sure he wore his black belt on the set at all times, so the kids would see him like a pro and somewhat mysterious as to his abilities. The result of all this is that Miyagi taught mental attributes first to understand the art of karate, while Kreese taught physical and without warmth, thus creating aggression and anger. To further this mentality, the environments are very important wherever karate is taught. Daniel is taught in the beauty of nature, whether Miyagi's backyard, the shores of the waters, while the Kais are taught in a confined dojo with yelling and screaming. This film showed that karate was more spiritual than a fighting tool, and this helped the film stand out over the countless movies in the 80s that depicted martial arts. When Miyagi tells Daniel he will train him in the novel, Daniel would muse how he's going to pay for all this since his family has no money. So when Miyagi tells him to do chores, at first Daniel is open to doing it as a way to pay him. After this scene, there was supposed to be a bit where Daniel went home and his mom was yet again at work. Thus, they communicate by notes since they don't see much of each other, thus isolating Daniel further.
Young man alone.
Now, the scene where Allie gives Daniel her phone number was originally to be after their first date. Since the date didn't end on a perfect note, Daniel said he'd call her, but she would retort by this happening.
What? What?
Oh my.
What is this? What is this?
How are you gonna call me? You don't have my number.
I got it now.
You sure do.
Thanks.
Of course, it was easier to put this scene earlier in the film, so they could cut that rehearsal sequence. Speaking of the date night, Daniel did not have a car, so after the scene where they made the date, he would go home to find his mother there. In a scene that needed to be in the film, Daniel asks his mom to drive him, but his mom has to work in a half hour, to which Daniel retorts,
Well, look, can't you call so you'll be a little late?
So busy
No problem.
tonight.
Ma, please, I gotta do that. I mean, I set the thing up already.
Well, maybe if you gave me a little more notice.
Well, if I knew how to find you, maybe I would have. I mean, you're never around here.
You know, that's what I like about you, LaRusso. When you're right, you're right.
All right.
She takes him despite the short notice, and it just added more dynamic to his mother and the trial she went through to support her home. There was so much cut from Lorraine that some of it needed to remain in the film, in my opinion. Now, writer Kamen knew karate and the blocking systems, and so he created the wax-on, wax-off, paint-the-fence moments to bring the audience along with Daniel. But Kamen stated Miyagi wanted Daniel to do the techniques by doing chores. Miyagi also wanted things done and teaches Daniel on his terms rather than traditional ways.
The kid wants to learn karate. Mr. Miyagi wants his fence painted. The kid wants to learn karate. Mr. Miyagi wants to go fishing. The kid wants to learn karate. Mr. Miyagi wants to go to the beach.
The fly catching scene had many different attempts, from having a fly trap and then Daniel letting it go, then reversing the film to have a plastic fake fly on a fishing line. In the end, they used a live fly on a fishing line and then a plastic fly glued to a chopstick, along with some crafty editing. After Daniel realizes his training involved the chores, he is told to return again, and we can assume he returns often. However, during those repeat visits, Daniel managed to do a favor for his mother, which would not be in the final film. Once again, a scene with his mother from the rehearsals was cut when she would wake up one morning to discover Daniel gone, but a room in the apartment is painted fresh from leftover material from Miyagi's house.
Notices the place is all painted. To be continued.
What a good kid.
During the bottle scene, you should recognize this person, and I would say watch out, Miyagi. Don't piss off Durrant. He's a dangerous guy.
Let's consider my points. 1. I try not to let my anger get the better of me.
Now, just after the boat training scene, there was another scene that was in rehearsals that added more backstory to Miyagi. In this scene, Daniel asks why Miyagi left Okinawa, and this was his answer.
Japanese army say Miyagi come. Miyagi say Japanese army sayonara.
You mean you ran away?
Run far, run fast.
This would move into another deleted scene where Johnny delivers a paper for Daniel to get signed, and Daniel would ask Johnny why he enjoyed messing with him so much. This was the response.
Maybe because I like to. Did you ever think of that?
Well, you ever think your teacher might be wrong then?
Watch your mouth, runt. I'm gonna forget my promise and rip your teeth out.
Back to Miyagi, the scene that covered his wife was very personal to Pat Morita, because when he was young, he lived in a Japanese internment camp, and he revealed this before filming the scene. The studio wanted the scene cut, as they said it was too long, but the scene was crucial for the franchise, and it touched on the sordid treatment towards Asians in America during World War II. The studio said it stopped the momentum of the film, but the writer and director fought to keep the scene in the movie. This scene elevated the mood of the film to a higher level. The revelation of Miyagi's wife has some small details about her. She was from Hawaii and was very good at cane cutting, according to Miyagi in the novel. Also, we learned that during World War II, she was placed in the Manzanar Relocation Center, which was located at the foot of Sierra Nevada mountains in California. It was one of 10 American concentration camps for Japanese during World War II. There were not a lot of doctors in that camp, and she would die due to complications of birth. What was important about this scene on a narrative level is that for the first time in the movie, it's not about Daniel. It's about Miyagi and his journey, and how their two fates have now combined to give them both great meaning in each other's lives. To cut this from the movie would have damaged it terribly. Miyagi's tragedy also forces Daniel to think beyond himself as well. Though he is wallowing over what he just saw that night with Allie and Johnny, he will soon get over it. However, he does not get over it the next morning, as in this cut scene, which was in the book and rehearsals, Allie saw Daniel and followed him. She would then try to talk to him, and it would turn into a standoff.
You know, you're pretty rude.
Oh, yeah, how could you tell? How could you tell? You live in a world full of rude people. I just want you and your pals to leave me alone, okay?
When Daniel is seen training by himself, the film is making it clear that the hardest lifting in our lives must be done by ourselves. Had Daniel not gone above and beyond just training with Miyagi, he would have lost the tournament without learning the crane kick. So, in the end, it is Daniel's determination and focus to his training that caused him to reach victory. Miyagi's training is focused on the harsh basics, and if you find it hard to believe that Daniel could become a champion after a month and a half of training, I understand. The movie does address this. Daniel would confess that he feels like he doesn't know much, even though the tournament is the next day. Miyagi agrees with him and then says this.
Danielson, you trust quality, what you know, not quantity.
The yellow 48 Ford Super Deluxe that is given to Daniel in the film was actually gifted to Ralph Macchio by the producer of Karate Kid. As of this video, he still owns it today. A scene I'm overjoyed that was cut from the film was after Daniel failed to convince Allie to get back with him. She would leave the arcade and go to her car, but some thugs grab her, and for this scene, she became a predictable damsel in distress. Daniel would of course find them just in time and rescue her. Cutting the scene to have Allie and Daniel making up like reality was a way better approach. After that scene, there was another cut moment. Daniel would bring to his mother the All-Valley Tournament waiver that Johnny gave him in the deleted scene. He would wake her up, and after she read it, she refused to sign it. Then he would go to the kitchen to find a $20 bill for his birthday present and a cake that sits on the table. This story thread would continue when Daniel's mother wakes up and realizes that Daniel's not home. She remembers the waiver he tried to get her to sign, and so she heads to the All-Valley Tournament. Now here's where the subplot for Mrs. LaRusso pretty much ends. It doesn't resolve her reaction to Daniel going to the tournament and not signing the waiver. She just shows up there, and that's that. The referee for the tournament was Pat Johnson, who trained the crew on karate for the film. For the scenes at the tournament, there were 500 extras, and Zabka's character was often booed even when the cameras were not rolling. Zabka's mother was in the crowd and cried as a result, stating he was not like how they depicted him in the film. One of the rehearsal moments that should have made it into the film is when one of Cobra Kai's hottest heads, Dutch, who was played by Chad McQueen, was very sour at losing and attacked an opponent. The referee would demand he shake hands and bow, and his actions would cause not only him, but his sensei's actions to be outed.
Hey! Is that the way you instructed teaching?
There was a longer scene where Daniel's leg was hurt. It would linger on Daniel's howls and then show Bobby being disqualified. However, the best part of the scene would have Bobby throwing his belt on the ground in disgust when confronting his sensei. The film chose to give Bobby a more compassionate moment, though, by having him apologize emphatically to Daniel before he was taken away. Like Bobby, Johnny must also face the music when it comes to his teachings, and in truth, he's been brainwashed.
It's that moment when there's all of a sudden a veil pulled off of somebody that you just completely worship and respect, and they're not who they are at all. And it's that moment of like, wait a minute, who are you, and then who am I?
Despite his realization, Johnny obeys his sensei as he has devoted himself to his discipline, and only after losing will he fully adjust his views.
You're all right, LaRusso. Thanks a lot.
For the crane kick technique, you might be wondering where this came from. Well, writer Robert Kamen said this: I made it up. It was just something I thought up on the spot. You have no balance. Your hands aren't in defensive position. It's just cinematic. To achieve the look of the crane kick during the competition, many angles were done to make it look real. The original ending for The Karate Kid was the first scene from Karate Kid 2, and it would have completed Johnny's arc, but audiences would have to wait for the sequel to see it. However, if you read the book in 1984, this was the original ending for the first Karate Kid movie. They decided not to film it because they felt the victory in the tournament was the perfect way to end it. When I saw The Karate Kid on VHS during the summer of 1985 in West Point, New York, I had no friends and kept to myself. I pretty much had no idea how to converse with others my age. I had already been through 14 moves and I was just 13 years old. Not to mention, I wasn't the most socially graceful, so I didn't talk at school and generally hid myself from others. I was also not the physical type, and this was evident in gym class where, ironically, the kids would tease me, often calling me Danielson. They would say, "Try Danielson," and Danielson need more practice whenever I did not match the others in athletic pursuits. The bottom line was that I daydreamed, often about movies. So you would think that in 1985 I would hate the Karate Kid, because at West Point Elementary, my nickname became Danielson, and I resented it. The name followed me everywhere, and I would just ball up even further. Still, I kept trying. I never bridged the gap with those kids at school, but I remembered the film's lesson to keep trying, and I took it seriously at that age. So I did not hate the movie at all. That is one of the strongest messages of this film, because mainly I see it as a film about adapting and companionship. It starts with Daniel and his mom starting a new life together in a new place. Eventually, Daniel is learning karate and is gaining a completely new way of thinking after being forced to survive dangerous situations. Miyagi must outgrow his solitude and learn to tutor this kid. Allie must adapt to this totally new kid from across the tracks. That is not what she's used to. Johnny must adapt to a new mentality when he realizes his teacher is wrong and must eventually rise above the way he was taught. It's a great metaphor for those without hope, lost, or up against hardship, and that message is timeless. As an adult, this film takes me back to 1985, and my kids enjoyed it a lot too. I don't think it impacted them as much as it did me, but it gets me every time, just like Rocky. You feel good after watching it, and it opens your mind to different perspectives. I'm not sure if I will cover the sequels. As always, I'll leave that up to you folks, so leave your thoughts in the comments. And with that said, that's the end of our first Karate Kid coverage. And we thought we'd take a second to give you a little insight on what's coming up for our slate this summer. Next up will be The Crow, and after that we're going to check out the 1978 Superman. After that we are going to rip into Alien vs. Predator Requiem before continuing our Hidden Gem series with Adam Wingard's The Guest. After that we will continue our John Carpenter series with The Dreaded Thing. And after that we have our sights on Tron Legacy and the 1980s classic Running Man. Of course, the order is subject to change, but we have a lot planned, and as always, we're so glad you're here with us and can't wait to share more with you. So keep debating that Johnny was bullied, because we don't mind that here at all.
Hey, you're one of the few people in the world who truly gets the Karate Kid movie. Well, my answer just had to be.
We will see you next time. If you like what you see here, click like and subscribe. Super thanks helps, but so does sharing.